Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to a big afternoon here of cycling on Eurosport. It's the Tour of Turkey first, the 49th Presidential Tour of Turkey, and we're looking at the beautiful area of Alanya, the tourist resort on the southern coast of Turkey. Well, stage one of 8, 1,204 kilometres from here to Istanbul, when it will be Europe to Asia. First stage today, it's an out and back to Alanya, just 143 kilometres, nothing too much in terms of obstacles along the way. One little climb, just to dish out some King of the Mountains points more than anything. And then it's turn round once they get back to Gashim Pasha. There's that mountain spin, only 250 metres above altitude. They've had a wind behind on the way out. I can tell you they're just about to turn around at Güneyköy and then head straight back along the Mediterranean coast all the way into Alanya. This time they'll dart around the coast. There'll be an intermediate sprint for the green jersey. And then it's the first of many a test this week for the big sprinters teams, and I can tell you that there are plenty of big names here. And the first stage will be decided along the second passage across the line. There's a profile then. Again, not too many lumps and bumps, all about the sprints as we head into stage one. So good afternoon, it's Gazi Pasha as we look down the peloton, about to turn around and head back towards Alanya. I can tell there's a break of 5 riders out there. They have 4 minutes and 34 seconds with 60 kilometres remaining. I can tell there's a couple of P-stars out there in the break, and sitting next to me, another one of those in the commentary box. It's a very good afternoon to Tony Gibb.
Good afternoon, Rob, and good afternoon, everybody at home. Thanks for joining us. And as you can see, the bunch not really got too much of a rush on at the moment. 4:34 to this lead group with 60 kilometres to go, which is quite controllable to the 5 riders. And it's very much a sprinter's race, this one, isn't it, Rob?
It certainly is. 8 stages, just one queen stage, which comes on stage 3 with a couple of climbs. There's a little chance later on in the week, I think it's on stage 6, when they head up to Ephesus, there's 1 or 2 bigger climbs left then. But if you look at a lot of the teams that have come here, full of sprinters, the likes of Guardini, Boss, Brown, Renshaw, Greipel, Fenn, Kittel, Cantwell, Modolo, Ciolot, the winner of Milan-San Remo, Brian Cocar, Francesco Chicchi, Condorcourt and Aidis Kropis, to name but just a few.
Yeah, and as you're saying, the first half of this race is all based around Alanya and probably in the same hotels, which are nice for the riders because it's always a pain to be packing your suitcase every night. But yeah, very much a sprinter's race, especially we picked out Blanco, didn't we, as coming with many sprinters. They've got Theo Boss, Graham Brown, and who's the other one picked out? Mark Renshaw as well. So they've really come for the sprints.
Well, they certainly have. There's a bit of GC action a little later on in the week, but we will, of course, leave that until we come to it. For now, 4 minutes 32 the gap, and the break didn't really develop until around 30-40 kilometres in. There were plenty of attacks early on. Nothing much happening until Mustafa Sayar of the Turkish Continental team Turku Şekerspor attacked on the top of the Tiramanis Primi climb. As we look down at Gazi Pasha Airport, gateway around this area to many tourists that come to this part of Turkey on holiday. It's getting up towards the holiday season as well now. But no holiday for those chasing. That's because in the break there are a couple of really strong riders. We've got Mikhail Ignatiev for Katusha, the Olympic champion in 2004 in the points race. Also with him is Javier Aramendia of Caja Rural. Nikolai Mikhailov is the representative from CCC Polsat. Juanes Arango, I know it's a man that many of you who follow track cycling will have known a lot about. We'll talk about him a little later on in the afternoon. And for those green jerseys you can see of Turku Şekerspor, the local team, the only continental-based team in this race, it's Mustafa Sayar, 25 tomorrow, and the man who won a stage on the Tour d'Algérie a little earlier on this year. Caja Rural here. There are 9 pro teams this week, and pro teams have brought a lot of big boys. I mean, we're going to see some big jaws this week in the sprint. We've already mentioned all of the big names that are here, and we're talking about some of the in-form riders. Guardini, Greipel, who's the record stage hole winner here. Yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned Cholek earlier, winner of Milan-San Remo, but also one I've just picked out from lower down for Europe car, Brian Cockard, who had a fantastic Olympics and has been very good on the road this season. He's only really sort of moved over to full-time on the road after the Olympics, signed for Europcar, and I think it was it Langkawi, Tour of Langkawi, where he won a stage and got a couple of second places as well. So really, for a first-year rider, he's only 20 years old as well. He's one to watch for in this first stage with a sprint. Don't think it's going to suit him down to the ground because it's a very fast sprint. I think the last turn's 4k from the finish, so it's more of a gripple sprint in my opinion, but you never know. He's coming up, and he's definitely one to watch for the future.
Well, the thing that Kokal is going to be up against as well is the fact that a lot of the big sprinters have big teams to support them with as well. We're talking big trains getting involved. You've already mentioned Blanco, but let's not forget Argos Shimano as well for Marcel Kittel. He's got leader man extraordinaire Corne de Court here.
He has, but also you've got Amiga Pharma Quickstep with Ilya Chiesa, who very good track rider, and he's moved over to the road. Gert Stegmans, and of course Andrew Fenn, number 51, very young British rider who's doing very well in the sprints as well. So I think they're one to watch out for. So this last sort of 20k of this race really is going to be a full-on fight.
Well, before we get to those final 20Ks, time to introduce you to the break, now that we've finally got a look at them. There's a Colombian rider right in the middle who we were talking about. He's perhaps the most interesting and exciting of this bunch.
Yeah.
I know that you've been following his progress well on the track, and he's won some big things already in his career.
Yeah, and picked him out earlier on when his name cropped up when we were in the office doing a bit of pre-race research, and he was, I believe, second in the scratch race in the World Championships in Denmark, and he won, I think he won the Omnium at the London round of the World Cups last year before the Olympics. So he's a very good rider indeed. The Colombians do tend to have good track riders that can just nip around and go unnoticed, and they're very quick, and they get through little gaps. So he's moved over to the road now. He said he still feels like a track rider, but moving over to the road and obviously plying his trade and getting out in the break here and doing a very good job of it. It was interesting to see the rider there in the green, you can see with the red on his sleeves, from the Turkish team that you mentioned.
Sayar, yes.
Yeah, the only continental team. They're in this race by courtesy of the fact that only continental teams from the home-based country can ride in these races. And I believe they're the only Turkish continental team, so that's why they're here. So they've stepped up, so this will be a great experience for them, and in some good company in this break. But this break, I could pretty much bet my house on the fact that this break's not going to succeed.
I think that's pretty certain, yes. 4 minutes 22 for the moment, but of course when all those big sprint teams decide to step it up, the bait is hanging out there, and it's all about television time and television exposure for these guys. Talking about the team in green there, the green, red and dark black of Turku Şeker Sports, a team that's based in Konya. They've had 3 wins this year already. They took a stage on the Tour d'Algérie, another stage later on in Morocco as well, with Ahmet Urkan, who's their big GC hope here this week. But they've also got experience in the shape of Andrei Mizurov. Seen him in many a year riding on the Pro Tour with Astana. He's the ex-Kazakh champion, I think 3 times on the road, 2 or 3 times in time trialling as well. And he's been out on the Asia Tour grabbing points and lapping them up for the Tabriz Petrochemical team, who, let's face it, I think for the last 1,000 years or something have won the Asia Tour. They're so strong, the Iranians out there. But he's been riding for them. He's back in Europe, but at continental level this year. And they also made an interesting signing in the fact that they gobbled up David de la Fuente from Spain as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A very experienced rider, but not sure he's going to be in his element here. It's not really hilly enough for him, I would have said. But you find this with some riders at the sort of end of their career. They're down in a Pro Conti team or even a Continental team, just eking out the last few years. Don't want to speak from experience or anything like that, obviously.
Well, with De La Fuente, I think it was, from what I could see and what I've talked about with the Spanish journalists who covered his careers, that I think he just found himself without a team, had this late offer, decided to take it, and he was happy as the peloton behind are turning around and heading back towards Alanya now, as you can see.
Hey, you do what you can to ride your bike, and there's a lot of guys in the UK that have been in a similar boat, and although cycling in the UK is now massively on the up, there's still not a great deal of money filtering down to teams, especially that sort of second string kind of level. So you do what you can to eke out your career and ride a bike for as long as you can if it's what you love and you're doing it because it's what you love and not as a money-making exercise.
Well, remember that this afternoon you can get in touch with us here at Eurosport. There's also Liège-Bastogne-Liège over on Eurosport 1 as well this afternoon. Remember, it's hashtag Eurosport Cycling on Twitter if you want to get in touch. And as well, if you know our own personal handles, feel free to get in touch that way as well. That's the MTN Quebec team, of course, looking after Gerhard Siolek. 4 minutes 16 at the moment. Siolek, who's had a great start to life at his new African team. Real new lease of life, a bit like we saw with Roman Kreuziger earlier on this week. He's moved to Saxo Bank, he's got his first win. And of course, Siolek will be hoping to lap up some points this week. Well, the sprint coming up a little later on this afternoon. For now, we're going to go off and take our first commercial break. Remember to keep it Eurosport, the home of cycling, back in a moment here, stage 1 of the Tour of Turkey.
You have a dream, and you have the passion. You want to go beyond what everybody else says is possible. Imagine you riding alongside a legend. This is your chance. Conquer the road.
Journey back through history with Forge of Empires and witness humanity's greatest inventions. Conquer new territories. Build and expand your city. Research and discover new technologies to lead your empire into a new era. Whether it's by yourself or with friends, forge your own empire. Play now for free at FOE.tv.
Very warm welcome back to stage 1 of the Tour of Turkey. 52 kilometres remaining. We have a 5-man break out there on the road. Very much a sprinter's profile today. 5 men have gone out and tested the water. Right at the back there, in the green and white, it's Javier Aramendia, a Spanish rider who's pretty aggressive. I think almost every day in the Vuelta last year is out there in the break and attacking. On the left-hand side, we've already talked about Juanes Arango, the number 151 of Colombia Coldeportes, a team who really are restoring pride to the very, very traditional aspect of Colombian cycling. The climbers have been going great so far on European roads this year. Turku Şeker Sport in the light green, represented by Mustafa Sayar, the man who'll be 25 tomorrow. Young Turkish rider a lot of people are pretty excited about, certainly in these parts. And CCC Polsa in the orange and black. Seen them active in a couple of semi-classics with Davide Rebellin and people like that. The big Tour de Polonia will be coming up after the Tour de France this year, and one of the races that's going to experiment with a 6-man team. Beautiful view out on the coast here.
I think that's the backside of the climb that we went over earlier, isn't it? They've just cut it out and gone along the coast on the way back. Not that it was a massive climb in the first place, but nice, pretty much pan-flat profile for the riders today. As you say, the one Cat 2 King of the Mountain climb was only up to 250 metres, and there was one other small bump as well, but that was about it. Nothing really to trouble anybody.
Well, a few climbers here this week, the likes of Warren Barguil of France. A couple of climbers that are here are ones that are really looking to make a name for themselves, not of the main men, of course. Most of those, anybody who is anybody, off to the Tour de Romandie this week, or they were in Trentino last week. Last minute preparation for the Giro d'Italia. For the rouleurs, and people are going to be working for their teams and other leaders at the Giro. We've got the likes of Luca Paolini and Pippo Pozzato here.
Yeah.
Stage hunters.
Must also be said that it must be quite nice for the guys to come here and ride without leg warmers and arm warmers on and enjoy a bit of the sun, because the early spring classics in Northern Europe have been absolutely terrible weather-wise.
Well, it's not just down the commentary box as well. We've had thermals on and everything until about 2 weeks ago. There was Herr Dox, by the way. Good to see him back on his bike. He broke his collarbone earlier on in the year in the Omloop. So not a good start to the season for the Belgian.
Little chat going on here between the CCC Polestat rider, Polish team, and the rider from Katusha.
Well, CCC, you have Nikolai Mikhailov there in the break. Come with a team, full complement of 8 riders. Most teams, 7 riders, pardon me, I should say. Most teams have come with a full complement of riders. Again, not one of those races that's in this new UCI experiment of having more teams with just 6 riders like we're going to see in the Tour de Pologne later on this year. Now, this is no surprise. Blanco and Argos Shimano at the front. Both teams with one objective here this week, and that's to try and pick up as many sprint wins as possible.
Yeah, Blanco, Shimano and MTN Quebecer as well, showing a bit of a presence at the front. So they're obviously nailing their colours to the mast very early on indeed. 50 kilometres to go, 3 minutes 50 to the break. They just got to be careful they don't bring it back too early. It's a cat and mouse game, isn't it? They want to make sure they bring it back, but not too early, because if they do the job to bring it back, another group could possibly go away, or it could just be absolute carnage with attacks going for the last 10-15 kilometres, and really they have to do it all over again. So they time the effort to make sure they bring it back at the right time.
Well, a couple of intermediate sprints in this stage as well. The sprint prize, and then what they call the Turkish Beauties prize, which is a separate sprint prize. They come up in the final few kilometres of the stage. And they might want to bring it back before that final sprint. All depends upon how things look. But again, if you bring it back too early, then all sorts of things can happen. You can get counter-attacks and what have you, and it can cause a little bit of carnage. We don't want any crashes or anything a little too nervy towards the end of what is just going to be the first stage of this 8-day race.
Yeah, and the running is completely along the coast, and then it goes through the finish line once, loops back round, then does another U-turn and goes back again. So they ride through the finish before they have to contest it, which is always an advantage. And there's a couple of turns. There's a turn on 13 kilometres out, then it's dead straight until 4.2k out when they do that final U-turn, and it's a dead straight running. So it's going to be a very, very fast finish indeed, even though they've got a little bit of a headwind.
Fast finish, some fast teams. Just to remind you of the likes of the riders who are here for the teams we've seen at the front. We've seen Blanco there. They've got Theo Bos as their main sprinter, but so many fast men, a few lead-out men as well. It's a big, big train, this one. They have Jetse Bol, the experienced Australian Graham Brown, Rick Flens is there, Moreno Hofland, Mark Renshaw, lead-out man extraordinaire. Just ask Mark Cavendish about that.
He's not really made that step, has he? He kind of went away from Renshaw to try and make his own kind of career as a sprinter, and I just don't think he's got that real top end. He's great if the sprint's 400 meters long, and he's got that ability to light up to about 90%, but he's just not got that final burst where he can really sprint for the line himself. He's just not quite getting there at the moment.
No, we saw it last year. I know he did particularly well at this race last year, but only in of course the points section. He was second behind Matt Goss, who took the points jersey in the end. You're exactly right. He's failed to consistently take those stage wins, which, let's be honest, that's what he was looking for. Because I feel he could have gone to Sky with Mark had he wished.
Absolutely. I think he could have gone there completely, but he didn't. He went to Rabobank, which is now Blanco, and tried to make his own way as a sprinter there. But, Theo Bos is a very fast sprinter, as we all know, from the track. But again, he's not really got there on the road at the top end. He's good in the Tour of Turkey and those sort of second string races. So him combined with Mark Renshaw, I think that's a very good combination. Add to that Graham Brown, who again is one of those riders who's coming towards the end of his career, but in his time was very good. I think he was Madison Olympic champion, and I think he won a couple of stages in the Giro or the Vuelta one year when he was riding for Panaria. So those three bolted together an absolute fantastic last sort of K and a half. But individually, I think they're all kind of just at 90% of where they could be, and obviously you've got Greipel just lurking there. with, you know, the likes of Adam Hansen to lead him out. So that's the real danger man for me, Greipel.
Frederic Robert as well in that team, who's pretty fast. Interesting, you talk about the Blanco team. It almost looks as if there's no real hierarchy there. A couple of guys, again, yeah, Boss is probably just about ahead of the likes of Brown and Renshaw, but again, a bit of confusion could reign for other teams as to who's going to be their main man.
Yeah, you've got to remember that there's a lot of bike racing going on in Europe at the moment, just as we see the Team Cara from CCC Polestar about to wipe everybody out. He won't be very popular later on.
What's he doing in there?
Well, he's trying to get up to the break, but really choosing the wrong moment to do that. There's a lot of bike racing going on at the moment. As you said, we've got Romandy coming up. Last week was very busy. Liège-Bastogne-Liège today, and the Giro starting next weekend. So teams have got, you know, probably 3 race programs going on at the moment. So it's very difficult to pick your team, and it may well be that the guys that are sent here are just what's left over and have a gap in their race program, or they're just coming here for some form. So it's a juggling act to get your team, you know, at this time of year into the right races. And you know, it may just be that these guys are, hey, you know, we're not going to leave you sitting around. We've got an invite to this race. We need to be racing. Away you go to the Tour of Turkey.
Well, it's a race that's getting increasing amount of credit each year. It's the 49th edition now. And of course, with Turkey's increasing economic power in Europe and in the world, and of course its tourism potential, it's one that's been harnessed really, really well in the last few years.
The good hotels, which the riders always like when there's good hotels, and virtually guaranteed dry weather as well, which again, you know, the riders always like that as well. There's some races, dare I say, the Tour of Beijing or the Tour of China, whatever it's going to be called this year, that really come towards the end of the year that the riders just don't want to go to because, you know, the food's not particularly great, the logistics aren't brilliant. But this race is one that, you know, if the director says, hey, you're going to the Tour of Turkey, it's like, yeah, okay, I can deal with that.
Well, it's a wonderful route all week. We start here on the southern coast, the Mediterranean coast in Alanya. Then they'll head up to Antalya tomorrow, which is the biggest city in this region. After that, it's to the City of Apples and the Queen Stage, Antalya to El Malur. That'll be 153 kilometres with several big climbs in it. Then it's back on the flat from Göcek to Marmaris. Marmaris, one of the biggest holiday resorts. Then on to Turgutris, Selçuk, Izmir, and that wonderful finish, Europe and Asia together in Istanbul. Off for another commercial break. The gap's coming down. Keep it Eurosport, the home of cycling.
You have a dream, and you have the passion. You want to go beyond what everybody else says is possible. Imagine you riding alongside a legend. This is your chance. Conquer the road.
Tour de Azerbaijan. Moving ahead.
Dealing with the challenges ahead requires focus, concentration, and a will to succeed. The International University Sports Federation, representing 163 countries, promotes sports values in tune with the academic spirit. Thousands of students from around the world participate in the events it organizes. And what do they learn? Friendship, integrity, cooperation, and achievement. The International University Sports Federation. Excellence in mind and body.
"44 kilometres to go on stage 1 of the Tour of Turkey. At around 5 minutes, these 5 riders in the break here, but rather predictably it started to whittle down. Now the sprint teams are getting interested as we're into the final 44 kilometres. 2 minutes 58, there's Javier Aramendi at the front for the Spanish Pro-Continental team, Caja Rural. Team that did such a brilliant Vuelta al País Vasco the other week. They had the former Euskaltel rider up there and doing absolutely superbly, Amets Churuca. So they had a very, very good time of it in the Basque Country. Such an important race for them, of course, being a Spanish team.
Yeah, absolutely. But just looking here at the road surface, it's not great in some of those areas, isn't it? On the corners, the highways that they're riding on look to be okay.
A lot of them have actually been resurfaced, certainly the highways.
Yeah.
But again, if you're on the sort of B roads,
yeah,
that's when the problems will begin.
Yeah, quite questionable. Even here, you can see the riders looking for the white line just to try and get off that bumpy bit of road. It looks okay, but what looks okay on TV and what looks okay when you're riding on a 22mm tyre with 130, 140 psi in it isn't the same thing. But Blanco right up at the front with Lotto just behind them.
Great to see Greipel back in action. Real big fan of what he did in the Cobble Classics this year. Of course, he's a rider that's had obviously public spats with Cavendish and what have you before, but I mean, I think that's certainly turned into much more of a mutual respect rather than a spat now. But it was just so good to see him working for his team leaders, getting rid of the sort of star quality he has, and just attacking. Tour of Flanders in particular, he was an absolute machine that day.
Yeah, I mean, the spat with Cavendish, for example, sprinters are sprinters, and you know, bike riders in general have got egos. Sprinters have got even bigger egos than, you know, the normal bike riders. So there's going to be that sort of clashing of egos, and it's going to happen, and it always does. And Robbie McEwen was one of the worst for it. You know, he was universally disliked by absolutely everybody. But you grow older and you get out of those things, and it just comes around to mutual respect, like you say. But yeah, that kind of work ethic that he showed in the classics for me is a real sort of repayment of what the rest of the team do for him the rest of the year, and it's a really nice thing to see. Really nice thing to see. But we can see here the mix of teams that want this break to come back is coming back very quickly indeed. So they might need to just rein that in a little bit, calm it down, because we've got virtually the whole of Blanco, the whole of Lotto and Argos showing their presence as well, with a couple of MTM Quebecer riders. So it's going to come back, and at this rate it's going to come back with about 20k to go. So could really do with knocking it down a bit. There's that road surface we were talking about. Stay out of the gutters there.
It looks as though perhaps a little bit of rain has come down recently as well. There's a bit of mud that got on the road, and that's never good. Certainly if there's a building site, there's the odd bit of nail or shrapnel or whatever that's been left about, and we could see a few punctures. We've seen Conde Court have a puncture already today. Certainly the time to get those things out of the way is now, and not within the final 30 kilometres.
Yeah.
Can never be planned though. Finally, a little look at a Vini Fantini shirt. We'd expect them to be involved in some sort of shape or form today with Francesco Chicchi, who went also brilliantly well very early on in the season. That's Luca Mazzanti at the back.
I absolutely love that kit. I think that kit is absolutely brilliant.
Great commuting kit, isn't it? You never get lost in that.
Oh, commuting? Sorry, you've lost me. Yeah, it's from a road safety point of view, it is great, isn't it? And I think it's absolutely brilliant. And team riding on the Cipollini frames, which are absolutely lovely, but pretty much impossible for a human being to ride. The head tubes on them are so short.
I hope Mario's not listening.
Well, you know, he's a mate, you know, it's okay.
Well, they've got a big month coming up, Vini Fantini. They had a super few days in Trento last week. Of course, Mauro Sant'Ambrogio going so well for them. He was brilliant at Tirreno Adriatico.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he just backed it up with another strong performance, and he could surprise a few people at the Giro, I think. Yeah,
the Giro for me is going to be very interesting this year. I actually prefer watching the Giro and the Vuelta to the Tour, because it's not quite as contrived and predictable. And you know, you get a couple of Pro Conti teams in there, and you get the odd result that you really don't expect. So I prefer watching the Giro. I think this year it's going to be brilliant. I know Brad is focusing very much on it, so that will be great to see. It just for me, it'll be, it's good. It's the real proper start to the season for me once the classics are finished.
Proper fans and proper racing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Vini Fantini, as we saw a moment ago, they also have the experience of Stefano Garzelli in their team as well to work for. I think now that he's realised that his GC days are over, so he should be working for Sant'Ambrogio, going for the odd stage win. So they've got a good solid unit of people backing him up.
Yeah, and experience is what it's all about when it comes into a sprint. You know, you really need to be on it. And we were talking earlier, weren't we, about Amiga Pharma Quickstep not quite delivering just yet on the lead-out train for Mark Cavendish. They've had a few kind of last 2 or 3k absentees, shall we say, where they've gone missing, but the experience is really where it counts, and it'll be interesting to see here, because as we keep saying, this is going to be a sprinters race, and there are a lot of very experienced sprinters and lead out riders here, so it'll be really interesting to see how we go for the last 10k.
Well, look how your big pick Brian Coquard gets on this week. It's a big week for him as well. He's 21 when the stage reaches Tourgotrice, one of the tourist resorts around the Bodrum area, if you know that, southwest, where the Mediterranean changes to the Aegean. So it'd be nice for him to celebrate with a win then. Of course, they've done brilliantly in Étoile de Bessèges, which is a good sprinters race as well earlier on in the season. I think it was Denain, was it, a couple of weeks ago, when we had an all-French sprint podium, Arnaud Demar, backed by Brian Coquard and then Nasser Bouhanni. So French cycling and French sprinting looking good again. This for the minute is Nazim Bakirçer, Turkish rider.
He's
Desperately to find
He's
his
not
team
very
car.
happy about going that far down to the team car, is he? I want the team car right up on the bumper of the commissaire, because that bunch is making some progress now. That bunch is, you know, that gap's come down very quickly indeed. We've lost another half minute off of it, so we're going to be seeing those breakaway riders very soon, unless they take the foot off the gas at the front of the peloton. And I would certainly at this stage of the race, I wouldn't be too happy about having to carry, you know, 6 or 7 bottles up the road, because if you haven't done it, just try doing it and see how heavy it is. It's very heavy indeed.
Hard work, certainly when they're going along at this lick and this pace, when you've got to use the extra amount of energy.
Yeah, 6 bottles weighs a lot.
One thing's putting them there. Make sure you keep them there and then get up to the bunch.
That one's going.
Oh, here we go.
That one's going.
Oh, there we go.
Dear. I don't think he's done this that often, to be perfectly honest with you. You see, he's got about 3 bottles. You saw the rider just go past there from Saxo Bank. The rider from Saxo Bank just in front of him had about 12 bottles up his jersey.
Well, Saxo Bank themselves are going with a sprinter today who's had such success. Oh, dear.
Just lost another one.
Comedy roadshow at the moment on Tour of Turkey.
Yeah, the mechanic's now actually putting them in his jersey for him. So.
Well, just to give him his moment in the spotlight, it's number 242 Nazim Bakirçer, Turkish rider for Turku Şekerspor in those green kits. You talked about the hotels. I wonder if they're all staying there.
I thought that was your house.
I wish. It is a beautiful area of the world if you ever get a chance to visit it. Both the Mediterranean and the Aegean coast of Turkey. Hence the leader's jersey here is turquoise. Fits in with the beautiful colour of the ocean.
See what they've done there.
Parts. Oh, it's great. Commissaire just making sure everything's okay.
See now, not only has this poor guy got probably 6 or 7 kilos worth of water on his back, but he's now got to get to the back of the bunch and then get back up to his teammates and dish them out, and they're not going to drop back to him. He's got to make it up to them. So it really is a kind of it really is a hard task to do to feed your team, and he's only got 4 or 5 bottles as well, so there's going to be a couple of people.
How many text
without.
messages and tweets is he going to have by the time he gets home?
Yeah, exactly.
A few Mickey taking ones, I think, as we see the break again. 2 minutes now, 36 kilometres remaining. That gap really is coming down. A look by the second, well inside 2 minutes here.
What have we lost? 57 seconds in the last 6 or 7k, so they really need to either stick a couple of Ks on at the front, or the back needs to take their foot off the gas, or we're going to be seeing them very soon indeed.
Well, there's Arango on the front. Still is riding on the track at the same time, by the way, as he flicks his on. It's a little help here to try and keep this going. Man who still lives in Colombia, in El Retiro. Lives and trains at well over 2,000 metres above sea level.
Yeah, it's always a benefit, that, isn't it? Very good friend of mine on Twitter, Nigel, has just tweeted us at Eurosport UK TV and myself at agibby76 to say, do you give bid on stuffing lessons? Yes, I do. Richmond Park, Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
There you go, for our London and UK viewers. Appointment with learning how to be a domestique. I think we should send an invite out to our rider out there, the Turkish rider, Nazim Bakirçer. Not a good first afternoon at the Tour of Turkey for him. So I can see Those headwinds slightly coming in off the sea at the moment. Riders riding back into the wind here. And the first spot of the Europcar team looking after Brian Coquin. They've brought just 7 riders here. They've got the strength of Damien Gaudin, who showed his superb ability in Paris-Nice. Bjorn Thurau, who's inactive in the classics as well, from good cycling stock. Sébastien Chavanel's here. No Tommy Vauclair. Having a well-deserved rest, I think, after his exploits in the north. Of course, shouldn't forget an enforced rest. He hurt himself the other week, didn't he? Amstel Gold, I think it was.
Yeah.
Collarbone for him, which is a shame because he's always active at this time of year. As long as he's back and ready for the Tour, that'll be his next main aim, I'm sure. 35k's to go. Look at that gap yet again.
Tumbling.
Lost another 24 seconds in the last kilometre or so.
Yeah.
He's getting a little crazy.
Absolutely tumbling. I think either the wind's picked up or the break are really starting to suffer, because that gap is tumbling down now. We're going to be seeing those guys very soon. Doesn't look like the bunch, you know, the bunch knots in one long line. They're not in the gutter, which is the obvious indication that they're really moving. So the flags there, not blowing massively, they're fluttering a little bit, but it's, you see that flag at the hotel there, that was blowing in their faces, but again not massively. So I don't think it's a massive headwind.
Well, perhaps just out of gas. Again, the sun's shining, and a lot of these riders have not been used to riding in the sun so far this spring. As you said, it's been leg and arm warmers, cold stuff, and even towards the end of Amstel, remember we saw people like Peter Sagan starting to cramp up, not used to riding in the sun. I think it was the first 20-degree day of the year that we'd had, actually.
Yeah.
34k's to go then. GC will be played out later on this week. I can tell that Alexander Djachenko, who won by default after finishing second, we had the leader disqualified from a doping misdemeanor last year. He's not back to defend his title. We'll be back after a little break to see how this stage is won.
Tour de Azerbaijan. Moving ahead.
You have a dream, and you have the passion. You want to go beyond what everybody else says is possible. Imagine you riding alongside a legend. This is your chance. Conquer the road.
Journey back through history with Forge of Empires and witness humanity's greatest inventions. Conquer new territories. Build and expand your city. Research and discover new technologies to lead your empire into a new era. Whether it's by yourself or with friends, forge your own empire. Play now for free at FOE.tv.
Eurosport Player is the multi-screen service of the Eurosport channels. With Eurosport Player, watch Eurosport and Eurosport 2 live on computer, smartphone and tablet through a single subscription. Watch your favourite events through the catch-up service. Also enjoy exclusive content through the bonus channels. Eurosport Player. All sports, all emotions.
32 kilometres to go on stage one of the Tour of Turkey. The gap of this 5-man breakaway has been coming down considerably. Down to just 1 minute and 26 seconds now. A few tourists on the side of the road waving away. On our way back into Alanya today, 143 kilometres, a rather short and flat stage for the first of what are expected to be many a sprint stage. 7 of the 8 stages taking place in the southwest of the country till we get up to Izmir, which is one of the biggest cities in Turkey, just outside the ancient city of Ephesus and Kuşadası, which is a big tourist resort. And then they'll fly up to Istanbul for the final circuit stage, and they'll be racing across the Bosphorus from Europe to Asia. Ooh. One of the most stunning places, and here we go. It couldn't stay like that for too long, could it? Thankfully, it's been lit up, and that's Ignatiev who's gone.
Is this the sprint that he's off for?
Certainly looks to be the case.
30k to go. Let me just have a quick look here. Mountain Prem sprint.
Ignatiev has decided to have a go. Remember, he was the Olympic champion 2004 in the points race. Slying his way out to the back and making sure that he could have a go.
I don't think that is the sprint. I think the sprint's been and gone. So I think he's just...
The only sprint remaining is the one that when we go across the finish line with 16.5 kilometres to go. That's the Turkish Beauty sprint finish line.
So he's obviously decided with 30k to go that this isn't going fast enough for him, so he's off. And that really is a big attack with 30k to go, isn't it? That's very brave indeed to ride away from four other riders.
Oh, he's one of the two track men that we mentioned. Of course, his experience on the track a long time ago, 2004. Oh dear, and this isn't good for... we talked about the possibilities of punctures. And Accent Jobs have had a bit of a problem there. They've had a poor spring up there in Belgium. Really have struggled to show themselves. They've got Danilo Napolitano riding for them. Experienced man. That, though...
Won't be too many problems with him getting back into the bunch.
Jürgen van Gulen. Again, better happening here than inside the last 20-30 kilometres.
Yeah. And I did notice that the convoy for this race is very long indeed. Not just the team cars, but there are a lot of publicity vehicles and ambulances at the back, so I don't think he'll have many problems getting back on.
So he'll have a bit of a jet stream to help them back to the front. As we see Ignatiev pedaling away. Decent attack by the Russian for Katusha, after all of that hoo-ha in the winter, have had a very good start to the season. Some good wins. Luca Paolini starting it off nice and early with that win at the Omloop in February. So here are the four men just behind Ignatiev. Faramendi trying to lead them on.
He's opened up a nice gap there, hasn't he, Ignatiev? 10 seconds already. So for these four not to be able to bring one rider back, he must be going very well indeed.
But look at this. So far strung out here as they head back in towards Alanya. 1 minute 24. Blanco, Argos, Europe Car, and the first sign of NetApp Endura getting involved as well.
Yeah, NetApp Endura, and that's a team that's come out of a merger of two teams, and they've got young Scott Thwaites, number 208 from the UK, riding. Very good sprinter indeed. And Roger Klug as well, the track rider from Germany. And
he's up against his old team as well, Argos, who are out there trying to put their men in.
So they're represented very well. Young Eric Rousel as well, getting a hit out here. So see what they can do in amongst this company.
Well, it's a fairly esteemed company. We've mentioned a lot of the big boys, like Sacha Modolo as well for Bardiani, who themselves have come off a few good days again at home in Italy, in Trentino. It's Ignatiev, the main protagonist at the front there at the minute though. 17 seconds now, his gap being opened up very nicely indeed. And from St. Petersburg, turned 28 himself in a couple of weeks. Experienced pro, been around for quite a while.
Very compact on the bike, flat back, good position, nice and aerodynamic.
He's been sent out to do a job, obviously, here.
Well, at the very least, he's getting some great publicity for his team, and opened up a big gap. I think the rest of the riders from this team, with all due respect, are pretty much on their last legs. They've been out there a long time, and really they should be able to bring one rider back on their own between four of them. So I think they're just biding their time, and that's obviously the reason that the gap to the bunch was coming down so quickly.
1 minute 17 between them and the bunch now. Look at that though, 20 seconds for Ignatiev at the front as Aramendia tries to drive it on for the team from Navarra in the north of Spain, Caja Rural. Been around for such a long time. Certainly that really stayed at that second division level, but quite happy doing so as well. It's an iconic jersey, that green and white. As we see the beautiful view down towards Alanya. Just to remind you that they'll go through the finish line with 16.5 kilometres to go. Then it'll be a circuit around the town of Alanya itself. That is the Bay of Alanya in the Antalya province of Turkey. It's more or less warm enough for beach weather today. Again, the real tourism season just starting in this part of the world. It's a good time of the year to bring this bike race to the region, get a lot of publicity for the tourists.
Bunch now really making some progress, aren't they? They're not strung out in the gutter yet, but there's some faces being pulled at the front. Orica Green Edge showing for the first time now as well. And they've got a very strong squad of, again, sort of second string sprinters. Alan Davis, Lee Howard, Cameron Meyer, the multiple track world champion, are all here. So
Kropis, who went so well earlier on this year as well, I think he may well even be the main man for them today. Between himself and Lee Howard, certainly. Remember, they did walk off with a points jersey last year with Matt Goss.
Yeah.
Goss himself, though, is going to Romondi, I think, this week. Preparation for the Giro d'Italia for him. Grand Tour, where he has had stage wins in the past, even in his HTC days. So take a great win just to the south of Naples in Cava de Teideni. 2010, I think, that was one of his first real big wins. There's the NetApp team we were talking about. The Eurosport's very own Brian Smith will be pleased about that. Works with the NetApp setup. And Lotto, of course, for Andre Greipel. As you said, expect Adam Hansen to be the last man for them.
Yeah, that Blanco kit, which is sort of the phoenix that's come out of the flames of Rabobank, who withdraw their sponsorship from the sport. But it's one of those interesting situations because they had a contract. I believe that they still had to give the team the money, but didn't want their name associated with professional cycling.
Nor the colours as well. It was interesting being in Amstel the other week and wondering exactly what sort of colours the fans were going to wave.
Yeah.
They stuck to their Dutch orange, though, as you'd expect. Now, just 1 minute up the road. Disadvantage, really, for these breakaway men is the fact that it is so straight. They've got missile lock on them already.
Yeah, they have. And, you know, it's difficult because you've got the vehicles around them and you can always see what's going on, and they'll be able to see a minute up the road and catch them very quickly indeed, unless they take their foot off the gas. But to be going at this pace with 25k to go, we see Ignatiev there opened up a massive gap already, and you know, he's away, but he's not got much or any kind of hope whatsoever of staying away at this stage. 25k to go. This is a publicity stunt for him and his team, and we really are going to have one almighty bunch sprint coming up here, but it's going to be going very quick for a very long time.
Well, he's doing his best to get that nice compact position as you described. Time trial his way away. What's the Russian time trial champion in 2011?
I believe he was junior world champion or medalist. I believe he was medalist at the junior world championships in the time trial. Certainly
under 23 individual time trial champion as well back in 2005, the year after he won on the track at the Olympics. And he won just about everything, both on track and road as a junior. We're going to take one last commercial break. We'll see you in just a minute.
You have a dream, and you have the passion. You want to go beyond what everybody else says is possible. Imagine you riding alongside a legend. This is your chance. Conquer the road.
Tour de Azerbaijan. Moving ahead.
Journey back through history with Forge of Empires and witness humanity's greatest inventions. Conquer new territories. Build and expand your city. Research and discover new technologies to lead your empire into a new era. Whether it's by yourself or with friends, forge your own empire. Play now for free at FOE.tv.
22 kilometers to go. 33 seconds back to the chasing man, Ignatiev. 52 seconds all the way back to the peloton from him. So the remnants of the breakaway, these 4 men on your screen now, drifting back towards the peloton. They're in the middle, and you can just see in the base of the shot, actually, that the group hunting as one big pack is going to gobble them up pretty soon.
Yeah, it's day done for these guys, and really they could do with being able to get back in that peloton. Normally when you've been in a race-long break like this and you get caught, there's only 4 or 5k to go, and you don't mind slipping out the back and coming in a few minutes down. But with 22k to go, if they slip out the back at this stage, they're going to come in 5, 6, 7 minutes down, which will really be race over. And in a race like this, which is all done on the sprints pretty much, you don't want to be losing that much time. But we can see there it's a matter of 150 meters, isn't it?
Well, it's an opportunity for UCI points, whether it's the team prize or individual prizes. It's so important to just put in your best performance. It's not as if it's a 3-week Grand Tour when you can afford to lose a lot of time. It doesn't matter if you Lanterne Rouge and you finish, a couple of hours behind, whatever it is. This is all about picking up the points here, certainly when they're so easily on offer with the sprints and what have you. And it was so important for Astana last year, who took the team prize. This year, very much going for the sprints. They've brought just 7 of the allotted 8 riders. Guardini's here, Guarnieri to help lead him up. Experience of Kushekin as well. And Kevin Sildreas of Belgium. Look behind for the CCC rider, Nikolai Mikhailov. He knows that they're almost out now. Looking up the road, there's Ignatiev. Good 35 seconds in front of the 4 riders behind him. His aim may be just to try and pick up the sprint prize here now, the finish line.
Yeah, 4k to go until that, which is a distinct possibility. He's got a minute on the bunch, so I think it's not in the bag, but I think it's a distinct possibility he could do that, given how he's going at the moment and how the bunch are going. But that bunch really are motoring now, and they don't really want anyone out the front for that last lap.
Well, the prize on offer today, going through the finish line for the first time, is the white jersey, which is sponsored by what they call the Turkish Beauties Prize. They call them the apparently they are, anyway. They're given the sponsor of this white jersey, and it is a separate sprint finish as opposed to the green jersey, which is the traditional points jersey in this race. And the white jersey, sponsored by the Turkish Beauties Prize, is what is up for grabs on our first passage of the finish line. So Ignatiev attempting to claim that. That'll come with 16.5 Ks to go. So we're getting a look at the last few kilometres here of this sprint finish, and it looks as though for these guys, that now they're inside, it's just about a controlled capture.
Yeah, this is the run-in, and looks all very wide, doesn't it? There's no street furniture to get in the way at this stage. We saw in a lot of the classics, didn't we? There was some absolutely awful placement of street furniture and roundabouts and benches in the middle of the road, etc., etc. But this all looks nice and wide, big long run-in. And sadly, this race has been dogged by crashes in the past, and that is indicative of a race that has a spread of teams in it. When you go from World Tour teams all the way down to continental teams, you do get riders that aren't used to riding at such speeds in the last 10-15 kilometers. They get a little bit out of their comfort zone. There's a touch of wheels, big crash. You also get riders who, like you say, because it's a second string race, they're searching for those UCI points, they're searching for that result that will mean a lot to them, taking risks that they otherwise wouldn't take, and you end up with a bit of a crash. You also get Theo Boss, who likes throwing people into barriers in this race.
Well, there's him and the rest of the Blanco riders all lined up on the right-hand side of the shot that we saw. The breakaway at the moment, the first part of it, the first part that's going to be swallowed up, has just 10 seconds as we head left. Inside what is now the final 1.5 kilometres of racing before they go through the finish line for the first time. Then there'll be 1 lap around the city of Alanya, and then back into that finish line. Very, very close to the seafront, as you can see.
So game over for the break, and we have one rider up the road who will scoop up that sprint competition.
And here he is to do so. Mikhail Ignatiev rides on. A few cobbles, as you can see, in the final few hundred metres.
Yeah, I don't think they're on the same scale as the
certainly not Roubaix.
The ones we've seen the last couple of weeks. They're more sort of you know, little pedestrianised area, or you know, the road out the seafront. Everyone just walks across to get to the beach. Big crowds though, which is good to see.
Big crowds and a fairly wide road as well, as we can see.
So this is important. This will be recce in the finish, so they know what they've got to come shortly. It's not like the big races in Europe where you'll go to the race days before and check out the last 50-60k, so you know what you've got coming up. It's you will have just arrived here a couple of days back.
Counter-attack time. Counter-attack time already. Lotto, being fairly intelligent, have sent one of their men out along to shepherd it as well, just so they can control how this capture happens.
This is what we were saying, wasn't it? This is the danger when you bring a break back, or these guys going for the sprint. It looks like they're going for the sprint. Maybe they don't realise that Ignatiev is already up the road. No, they don't. So this is the problem. The race is back together, but we've got 17k to go. So for one team to control it from here to the finish is going to be a very big ask. Blanco, it looks like, are taking that mantle up. But that's a real big ask to try and control that from here to the finish. And I don't think handing the bottle up at this stage is a really good idea. They're going to be moving there.
Very, very strange place to be standing.
Yeah.
Very strange place to be standing at this point in the race.
In fact, last 20k in the race, you're not allowed to feed anyway, so no one's going to be grabbing that.
So, inside 16 kilometres to go. Turku Şekerspor, you'd expect lighting this up. It is their job to do so, being the Turkish-based team. We saw them have a good tour last year before a dope test struck, and it was in the end one to forget. That was for their Bulgarian winner of the race. He was promptly fired and won't be riding for them again.
I don't want to say I watched that and kind of knew that was going to happen, but it was somewhat obvious, wasn't it?
A little too good to be true, you felt, at the time.
Just somewhat.
Lampre at the front here. Pippo Pozzato riding for them this week. They don't have neither Petacchi nor Ferrari, their two main sprinters here. Got a few fast men in the shape of Favilli. Of course, Pozzato himself, but with all the pure sprinters here, it was certainly not really going to be his day, you feel. Ignatiev 27 seconds ahead now, and Colombia trying to light things up themselves. Quite a new funny rider getting involved as well. Haven't really seen them at all today. Federica Amorisson, the biggest of their names, you feel. Baptiste Plaquin as well. Comes from very, very good cycling stock. Pozzato and Lampre. You feel here just to warm up for the Giro d'Italia. Hugely important race for them. Of course, they're undergoing still this huge restructuring that's seen Mr. Machin from northern Spain come in to try and sort their problems out. A lot of them PR as well, I think, for Lampre.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? They've never really kind of radically changed themselves or the team or what they do, and we've seen everybody else evolve and change their training methods, etc. But
here we go then. Turkish Beauty Sprint on day one, won by Mikhail Ignatiev. Frederic Robert of Lotto Belisol in second place.
So this lap of the town looks like we have some corners to negotiate, which would be quite nice.
Going to be very, very interesting as they try to bring it all back together again. Ignatiev at the minute out there. $14 kilometres to go on stage one of the Tour of Turkey 2013. The 49th edition of the Presidential Tour of Turkey. As expected, it's all coming down to what looks like it's going to be a bunch sprint. Mikhail Ignatiev went out there to try and get himself in the white jersey for the Turkish Beauty Sprint. He managed that. And at the moment, it looks as though he's resigned to being caught by those behind him.
Yep.
And looks as though that he's accepted his fate. And it won't be too long before he lets it all come back to, you can see, just feathering the pedals now. 14 seconds, that gap coming right down. It may well be a case, as you say, of just making sure he survives and stays in the bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be losing time, and there comes a stage where you have to think to yourself, well, I'm out here, am I really flogging a dead horse, because I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to sit out here for 2 or 3 Ks more on my own than I would if I really keep the gas on. So I'll just take my foot off the gas, have a bit of recovery time, you know, in this period here where the bunch are clearly going to catch him. I'm riding at, you know, a very easy pace. I'm regrouping, and I'm just going to drop back into the bunch and be able to stay with it to the finish. Otherwise, flog a dead horse, get dropped when they come past you, and spend the last 10K trying to get into the finish on my own or with 1 or 2 other riders.
Starting to see some of the Astana jerseys as well. There was Andrea Guardini right towards the back at this point. He needs to think about making his way towards the front. Surprised as well to see the American champions jersey of Tim Duggan towards the back. I'd have thought that he'd be one of those working in the front. As we see counter-attack chance yet again. This time it was a Soyuzsun rider. Ignatiev about to be caught.
Something happened there on the right-hand side. I wasn't sure if it was a crash or something, but there was definitely something going on.
The Soyuzsun rider taking advantage and making sure that he himself got out there ahead. You get a good look at him. This is what happened again. Soyuzsun darting off to the left. Ignatiev about to be caught. And again, all the riders looking to their right, so something was amiss. Just out of our shot. Shame we couldn't see that.
Yeah, never
They
mind.
must have missed it. But expect again, every time it looks like it's going to come back together, you could see these counter-attacks coming and going.
Yeah, you look at the bunch now, they've definitely taken their foot off the gas, they're spread across the road. So 13K to go, they know that 1 rider out there on their own. He's not much of a threat, he's not going anywhere, so we'll just regroup, and we'll have a situation now where we'll just have to wait for for one team to take it up and start leading it out for the finish. Only just got 13 kilometres to go now.
So Yannick Talabardon of France and Soyuzsun. They've got Brice Fayou here this week for the overall. So one of the main men who'd be expected to put up a challenge. No real sprinters for them. So there's a chance for a bit of protagonism on this opening stage. 7 seconds at the moment for Yannick Talabardon. Being chased, as you can see, all the teams almost to a man now, in formation, if you will. All the jerseys together. Blank on the left-hand side. We can see Vini Fantini not too far away from them. Lampre as well.
It's that stage where you want your team to get together. You don't want to be, you don't have to be hitting the front of this stage, but it's just that, right, let's get it together, get in formation. Who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, what order are we going to be in, how's it going to work? And we can see Blanco on the left-hand side. They're just playing it cool, with Lampre lining up behind them. Blanco in the brown and white. It looks like black and white and blue, but it's brown and white and blue, with Lampre just behind them in the very bright pink, almost purple.
So back together once more. Watch again for the odd attack. We've got a Colombia rider there, Bardiani and Cofidis, all of whom don't have big sprint teams, so an opportunity for them perhaps. United Healthcare with a few riders to the front as well, the American team. Remember, they've got the Curaçao champion, Marc Demar, riding for them.
Yeah.
One of the best jerseys in pro cycling. Vini Fantini, remember, riding for Francesco Chicchi today, the mega former quick-step man.
MTN Quebecer there, just went through your screen in yellow. They were just getting into formation about a third of the way down the bunch.
So let's remind you of all the big boys who are involved here today. We've mentioned Chicchi, we've mentioned Gerhard Ciolek, the winner of Milan-San Remo. We see this beautiful shot down into Alagna. There's Brian Coca, I know who you fancy very, very much for Europe car. I think it's a very good pick because he's on form, going well and improving all the time. Jonathan Cantwell for Saxo Tinkoff has been great in Australia, great in America, great on every other tour apart from on European roads where he's never won so far. Yeah,
absolutely. And talking of Americans, Rory Sutherland as well, who's riding for Saxo Tinkoff this year. He was absolutely fantastic in the American National Series the last couple of years, and he's now got a big break here, so he'll be interesting to see. But for me, I don't really think I can see past Greipel. I think Cockard and Kittel will be on the podium, but I can't see past Greipel given the support he's going to have here, and the team is so well drilled. But look, here we go.
Vini Fantini then, working very, very hard for Francesco Chicchi, has a few wins to his name this season. It's almost been a renaissance for him with 11 kilometres to go this year.
This is a lot of work by Vini Fantini with 11k to go. A lot of work.
Well, he's not one of those sprinters who requires a big lead up though.
So the question begs, why are they doing it?
It does seem a little bizarre, certainly with all the power they're up against.
Yeah,
you'd have thought they'd just hang on and let him fight for his own space towards the end. It's decent work though being done at the moment by Mauro Finetto. Perhaps a bit of training for the Giro here, you never know.
But you see Lampre coming towards the front, and they're very experienced at doing this, the likes of Pataki in the past. So we're just on that back side of the loop now, inland a little bit away from the coast with a tailwind now. So we'll come down here until 4k to go when we do that U-turn, and then we run back in along that coastline. Vini Fantini seemed to have desisted a little bit, and it's all calmed down with Blanco taking it up. Orica Green Edge just lurking in the background as well. And down the right-hand side of the road, everyone swaps over, and this is where it gets dangerous when, you know, teams are switching from, we don't want to lose out on any space, so we'll switch from one side to the next. You see Vini Fantini doing it now.
They lose the organisation, nobody knows where they are. You get the odd bit of road furniture in there as well, and the nerves, everybody fighting. It is, as you say, not a great situation to be in. Lampre, by the way, riding as you'd expect for Elia Favilli today. Professional since 2010, the young Tuscan rider, done well in races such as held the prize in the past. 6th place there before, so he surely can sprint with the big boys. Blanco sticking to their guns on the opposite side of the road to Omega Pharma Quickstep, who are still refining their lead-out train today with the final last part of Fenn replacing Cavendish.
Yep.
Cavendish who's off to Romandie to get some hills in his legs before he goes to the Giro. And here we go, Lampre and their Colombian champion doing plenty of work. Lampre, of course, you have Miguel Ubeto pulling away at the front.
See, this is where you've got two trains going down either side of the road, and it's going to get quite, you know, riders deciding which way they're going to go. One decides to go one way, one decides to go the other. All of a sudden you've got a touch of wheels, and looks like we've got a couple of punctures here. The problem at this stage is, you know, there's probably quite a lot of potholes and everything in the road. You're going this fast, you're not concentrating on the road surface. All of a sudden, bang, you hit a pothole, and you've got a completely flat tyre within seconds.
Vicente Reynez, one of Greipel's teammates, not a particular key element of the lead-out train, so at least it's not an Adam Hansen or anybody like that, but he's certainly a hard worker. Yeah,
8k to go. I think he might just be lucky and get back on, because it is a long convoy, as we said, but I don't think he'll be contributing to the lead-out very much indeed.
Inside the final 7 kilometres on the race back into Alanya. Stage 1 of the Tour of Turkey 2013, and Lampre at the moment doing their best to set up the sprint. A lot of the main big boys team sprints have come together. The trains are being formed, but a bit of confusion started to be injected. And look at this, a lot of the formations just disrupted a little with all the swinging about on the road here.
Yeah, absolutely, and up the right-hand side of the road there, that's... is that Omega Pharma Quickstep just massing on the right-hand side? And I just saw Scott Thwaites fighting away at the front there for NetApp. I think on the left-hand side he is there. But
United Healthcare as well.
United Healthcare with Argos Shimano and Europe Car as well. So everyone's getting involved. There's no one team that have really got the firepower to get on the front and take this one up. Rabobank, Blanco on the left-hand side. They've just sat there, minding their own business, let everybody else get on with it.
Same with Lotto as well, just sat on their wheel. Those two teams, they're the most experienced of the lot here. Yeah,
they've got everyone else over on the right-hand side having a bum fight for it, and they're just biding their time.
I expect to see them come to the fore. Interesting now that Orica Greenedge are starting to get involved. Some big fast men for them here. Lee Howard, Adis Kropis, Thomas Vaitkus, who works hard for the team as well. Alan Davis, the former Astana sprinter, in there too.
Alan Davis, one of those riders that's never really made it to the real pinnacle, has he? He's been there or thereabouts, had a bit of bad luck with a couple of teams going south on him, but seems to have found a bit of a home now at Orica Greenedge.
I think, if I'm right, he was excellent in the Commonwealth Games as well. I know he's a big fan of other sports as well. He's a rugby league fan, I think, Alan Davis. Sports the Illawarra Dragons. Never stops tweeting about them anyway, so I hope he does. There's Blanco on the left-hand side. Yeah, Europe card down the right-hand side as well. And 6k to go. This is really where it's going to get quite twitchy and quite tetchy. So watch out for the road furniture, watch out for any potential crashes. Touch wood that we won't see any, but the roads do arc around a little, as you can see. This is the run-in now. This is the last turn, I believe, to the finish, or we've got one more. And then that's it, dead straight road, straight to the finish. So Greipel and Lotto ready to place themselves. A few people now not needed in those lead-up trains are out to the back. And this is starting to stretch out. Look at how big it is stretching out now. So this is your finish. This is the dead straight running now along this coast road. So Blanco lining up there very nicely behind, well, we've got one Europe car rider and a couple of NetApp riders. Well, NetApp, as you say, looking at Thwaites and Kluger. But they're not there at the moment. And you're not going to ride 5k with two riders. Not a chance. Not how Blanco are lining up there behind them with what they got, 2, 4, 6. Blanco, as you say, just stayed in the same place for the last 20 kilometres or so. They have not moved. There's no real organisation apart from Blanco sat there. There's no real organisation apart from MTM Quebecer in the yellow. Well, 3 of their riders coming together for the first time. You would expect that it's Gerhard Siolek. It certainly looks like his pedalling style sitting on the back there. But, sorry. Francesco Chicchi as well, right next to them. Wait for the experience of Lotto to come up. They're just in the middle there. You can see them in the white jersey with one blue shoulder and one yellow shoulder. Their experience will really play out in the last 4k of this. Astana with Andrea Guardini making sure that they're in a similar place as well. Right next to Francesco Chicchi, and that's an interesting duel. Very, very interesting, because Chicchi's the man to replace Guardini when he left for Astana. And I know that there's a bit of friction between the two. The youth and the experience clashing together. And there's quite a few teams with 3, maybe 4 riders just coming to the fore here with 4k to go. And one man peels off. It's the Europe car rider. Now Turkush Şeker Sport trying to do their best with a fairly unknown team. Interesting to see young riders thrown into this equation to see what they can do against the big boys. But you really would have to back the experience of the likes of Greipel, Guardini, even Chicchi, as well as Theo Bos, Kittel. Blanco's still over on the other side of the road, not getting involved with anyone else, just being patient and staying over there. Now they come over to the left-hand side. We've got a little kink in the road coming up here. There's a little sort of chicane where they go onto the actual seafront road. And here it comes. We've seen it. Just that little kick to the left. They'll go forward in a moment. Bardiani as well, desperately trying to get their men in. Sacha Modolo, remember, he's done pretty well in sprints in the Giro before. Mark Renshaw there, just launching the last bottle over the everybody else's heads. He doesn't want any extra weight on his bike, so it looks like he's the lead-out rider for Theo Bos. Theo Bos, yep, sorry. Theo Bos, usually identifiable with that New Era helmet of his. Can't stand them. The thing is, Renshaw's wearing one as well today, so there you go. Can't stand them. 2 kilometres to go now. Accent Jobs coming to the fore, trying to get their man in. Again, it's all pretty disorganisation here. No organisation at all. Quick Step have got 3 on the right, but Lotto coming up to the left. Only a couple of men down there left for them. It's very not really on the plan. Blanco have lost quite a lot of ground here as well. We could be in for a very, very interesting last kilometre and a half. Here we go. Here's that little chicane off to the left and in towards the final run in now. Gerhard Siolek being distanced fairly far down. So at this stage, Amiga Pharma Quick Step with 3 at the front.
I think Andy Fenn is the rider at the back there, so they're putting their money on Andy Fenn. By looks of things from here, I could be wrong, but there's a few headbutts going on, and Greipel trying to get through.
Kittel's in a good position here as well for Argos. Very, very good.
Greipel's on his own. I think Greipel's been left on his own, but he's on the back of the Argos train there on the right-hand side in the white, and Amiga Pharma Quick Step, the light blue top jerseys just in the middle of your screen there.
Quite a few of the names being distanced though at the back. It's going to be interesting as riders peel off. And here goes Kiki, making sure that he's in the right place. Everybody who is anybody now has got to be in perfect position here. As the sprint is going to start to open up, it's being led out at the moment by Argos Shimano. Kittel on the second wheel, waiting to bounce. And here they go. Greipel sets off in the middle. On the left-hand side, Favilli going for Lampre, but it's the Turku rider who's leading it out. And this is looking very, very good for the home team. Kittel now in the lead. Marcel Kittel looking good for Argos Shimano. Greipel behind him, but he's not going to catch him. It's going to be the big, big man from Argos Shimano.
What a
He
ride.
was there at Schelde Prijs. He's here on stage one of the Tour of Turkey. And after what was a worrying approach to the sprint for many of the big teams, it is a big boy who gets it.
Absolutely. Greipel there completely boxed in. He didn't have a teammate anywhere near him. Was running at Kittel towards the finish, but just couldn't get anywhere near him because it had gone so wrong early on. Very messy sprint. But this is what we get in these races. Absolutely fantastic results, because we don't know, you know, the riders aren't really tuned into it. But what an absolutely brilliant sprint to watch.
Yuri Medlushenko there of Sheker Sport, who had a go, congratulating his adversary. It was good to see them light up the final few hundred metres.
Absolutely, it was great to see a Conti team mixing it with, you know, World Tour riders. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, Blanco, after sitting on the front all afternoon, absent in the final, was all about Kittel.
Well, Mark Renshaw was leading out Theo Boss, and we saw with about 300 metres to go going up the outside, Mark Renshaw's flicking his elbow to say, look, go, 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 go. I just haven't got you for this. I think it was past here that he did. Yeah, we've missed it. But see there, Greipel's just in the middle, gets boxed, has to just take his foot off the gas, gets out of that box, and by this time we've got 100 metres to go and it's game over.
Well, between the Columbia rider and Andy Fenn, almost had to bunt some of it out. Looks back, a very, very menacing look back to Andrew Fenn there, saying, what the heck were you doing?
Yeah.
And it's Kittel from Greipel. And Kittel, really, no competition in the final 100 metres.
No, and Andy Fenn, you can see there, he just didn't quite have the legs to go. You can always tell when someone's struggling a little bit because they can't get out the saddle. And it's always a show that they've worked so hard in the last sort of 10k to stay in that lead-out train that they then just haven't got the gas. And Kittel there takes it by 3 or 4 lengths quite comfortably, with Greipel running at him but not getting anywhere near him.
Oh, it's been a very, very good comeback from a nasty bout of flu that kept him off the bike for 2 or 3 weeks this spring. He wasn't at 100% when he beat Mark Cavendish in Schelde Prijs, but that was an excellent win. Although I'm sure Cavendish fans will point towards the fact that his team didn't do him any favours there. But Argos Shimano have started the week brilliantly well. That's what they're set up for as a team of sprints. And they've all done their jobs absolutely superbly today. Kittel, the winner. Andrei Greipel in second. Medlushenko, who lit it up for the Turkish team, in third. All success and a light, though, for Kittel. So Marcel Kittel rides off after congratulating his team. That's the way to do it as well, after they've worked hard for you all day long.
Yeah, fantastic sprint there. The team did work very hard in that last 10k. And before that, they put 2 or 3 riders up the front as well to bring that break back.
So here we go, Roger Kluger with a good result for Team NetApp as well in 4th place. Andy Fenn in 5th. Francesco Lascard and Danilo Napolitano up there as well for Accent Jobs. Sacha Modolo was the Bardiani rider who got involved. Edwin Avila for the Col Deportes team in 9th, just behind Grzegorz Stepniak.
Another Colombian track rider, Edwin Avila, so they're really switching over to the road and coming to the front, aren't they?
Colombian cycling in rude health at the moment. But it's German sprinting which is back, And it's good to see, because I know that Germany has had a bit of a love-hate relationship with cycling recently. And it's such an historic country, and a country that's given us some great bike riders, and it's nice to see it back on form.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully we can get rid of all the old rubbish that's gone on and just look at the good stuff. And Marcel Kittel, the young breed of rider that's coming through now. Greipel, by no stretch of the imagination, old, but Roger Kluge as well there. So 3 Germans in the top 4, and hopefully those horrible days are behind us and we can just enjoy the bike racing.
Marcel Kittel crossing the line as the winner of stage 1 of the Tour of Turkey. So the first bunch arrival of what is expected to be many this week. It's the sort of week that if you're on form you can really lap up some points, and Marcel Kittel will be looking to do that. Remember, you can see every stage this week live on Eurosport. We'll be back tomorrow as well. I can tell you that Dave Holman will be there alongside Magnus Magstad. Alanya to Antalya, 150 kilometers. Join them at 1400 Central European time if you're watching in the United Kingdom or in the Republic of Ireland. That will be an hour earlier at 1 p.m. Stage 2 of the Tour of Turkey coming to you live tomorrow on Eurosport, the home of cycling. So once more we get a beautiful look at the Bergrand of Alanya, I should say, just down the road from Antalya, which isn't to be confused, the big city. And as you can see, it's been such a meeting place for civilizations, empires and history down the years, with all of its beautiful castles. And it's been a meeting of the big sprint boys today. Marcel Kittel coming in just ahead of Andrei Greipel and Yuri Metlushenko in the end. Roger Kluge, Fen Laska, Napolitano, Stepniak, Avila and Modolo all making up the top 10. So this is how it's been today on the Tour of Turkey Stage 1. We'll leave you with the best images of what's happened today. Remember, 7 more stages still to come. Join us every day live on Eurosport for that. For now though, from Tony Gibb, myself, Rob Hatch, thanks for watching. And remember, keep it Eurosport, the home of cycling. Liège, Bastogne-Liège, still to come today.